Welcome to episode 152 of The Endless Stream. I'm Aidan, and this week I am joined by Brian. We are two artists, illustrators, filmmakers, and all-round shit-talkers, and each week we take some of the endless stream of content brought to you through Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Spotify, Amazon Prime. Wherever you get your content, we take a chunk of it, we watch it, and we talk about it. This week we are primarily talking about, I guess we aimed at the Steve Martin film Sergeant Bilko. We do talk about it. Brian has a different relationship with Steve Martin than I do. He's a little less pro Steve Martin, but he still enjoyed the odd Steve Martin joint. We talk X-Men, we talk Shogun, we talk all the things going on in the world and the world of the endless stream. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to the podcast, heading over to iTunes, heading over to Spotify, rating, reviewing, liking, subscribing. All of these good things help us out. On top of that, you can head over to Instagram at The Endless Cast, where we put up art to go with each episode. And that's a great place to send us a message, suggest something for us to watch, disagree with one of our opinions, give us a better fucking take if that's what you've got. Talk to us there. That's a great place to do it. Or you can send us an email at theendlesscast@gmail.com. All of that being said, let's get into the episode.
Having finally caught up with things. Have you caught up with X-Men?
I have not caught up with X-Men.
Like, what are we doing here?
We're
this is your job. This is your job.
I just didn't enjoy the first one, so I have no interest in going back to the rest of them.
Okay, but isn't the purpose of this to, like, talk about stuff we've been watching? Right. And how many times have I said now, hey, that episode was good.
Yeah.
That episode was good. Oh, what are we doing here? You don't even. I give you so many production notes week on week.
I've seen the spreadsheet.
Just spreadsheets, notes, and just Marley, he just doesn't listen, doesn't care. He don't care.
I'm sorry. I'm dropping the ball.
You're up to date in Shogun, though.
I am. I think I'm
How are you
up
feeling
to date.
about Shogun?
Shogun. I think I'm in episode 8. I think 9 just dropped. Right? 9 was last week.
9 came out this Tuesday.
It's class. It's class. It's.
I'm tempted to look ahead and see where the book goes to see how many seasons they might squeeze out, but I also don't want to know.
Here's my thought on that. Right.
Now, weeks ago, like episode 1 came out, and I saw a clickbaity headline saying, "Here's why Shogun's only getting 1 season," and I was like, "I'm not reading that." Just for the clickbait title alone. Okay.
I can tell you why I think it's only getting 1 season.
Because it costs a lot.
Because it's 1 book, and the 1980s production of it was 6 episodes. We're already at episode 8. A
miniseries, yeah.
I think they covered it, right? I mean...
But they're also, like, it is based on, real life characters.
Sure, yeah.
So they could...
They could extend.
They could.
I think it would be a bad idea. What I think they should
I don't think it would be a bad idea as such. I think that we would notice an immediate shift, though, in the type of show it is. Because it's been so forward moving so far. It is just concerned with the story. If it was on another show, we'd see like we'd have an episode following the priest and seeing his day to day. And I'm sure they'd write a good episode because they're good writers, but at the same time, it's not part of the main kind of adaptation.
There's TV filmmaking tropes that I'm watching out for that I fucking hate. So
that they've just avoided.
That they've avoided. So here's an example. Toranaga goes, they bring them back to the rural town and leave. And Anjin is there with Mariko. And Toranaga leaves, and
You're talking about Edo.
I don't think it's Edo. It's the Fisher village that they were there first.
Or Edo. Sorry, yes.
And that's where, the Hatamoto has his house, and he hooks up with Mariko.
Gotcha.
And then the episode sort of after the canon scene, we see Toranaga show back up, and Buntaro is back. I might be saying the names wrong. Buntaro's back, and we realize her husband's still alive. Right? When we came back to the next episode, and they did the like previously on or whatever, and we see Buntaro on the hill, it's like, oh, we're going to get a whole fucking episode now of like where Toranaga was and how we got, like, I thought we're just going to go off and do, because that's a TV trope. They could have justifiably gone, the 6 days that we didn't see them, here's what happened. And I hate that because it's slightly wheel spinny.
Yeah.
Because we're just trying to get back to where we were, you know, like the story's moving forward, forward.
You've left us on this,
you left us here.
Kind of point of tension. And it's avoided all that.
You could give me that information in a few sentences and keep moving the story forward and deal with the tensions that we've got here. And instead you want to explain. So I hate that. I hate that sort of loop around and like, how did we get there?
It's avoided all that.
There have been a few, like there's scenes with a lot of bodies. And I looked at it and I was like, why does this look and feel familiar in the way that like there's this gore everywhere? And I went, this is the network that brought you The Walking Dead. So suddenly I was like, okay, now that's a little dot connect in terms of the like the, you know, the way you could tell for a while, you could tell like an ILM production versus a Weta, just the way they make their shit or the way they render, or the light and styles, or the tastes of their artists being different. But so that's one of the things they kind of avoided that. There one episode where Mariko and he do hook up. I got a little. This show's amazing, right? This show's amazing. I'm just picking at tiny things, but I was just at the back end of that. There are 4 scenes in a row, and like each of them are a good scene. What's his name? I just keep saying Anjin and Hatamoto. John Blackthorne. John Blackthorne. He's doing something in the house, minding his own business, pottering, pacing, doing whatever he does, shuffling around, going blah, 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 blah. And then Mariko enters and they have a conversation where they land on some point. Then we see him on his own, walking around a rock pool. And then Mariko enters and they have a conversation and they go blah, 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 and they learn something and they move off. Then he's putting himself to bed and his consort leaves the room and the door opens and Mariko enters and they hook up. Then the next scene is the two of them on the porch and he's there on his own. And then Mariko enters and they have a little conversation. And it's like, that's 4 scenes in a row that started with John is doing X, Mariko enters. And it's like, we need, to my mind, I need a scene or something in between this, or do it as one scene.
I do not remember it that way. And I feel like there was 4 different people talking to him and you're just that racist. Why is he talking to Mariko again?
It's that it's wow.
That was a different woman.
Really? Shit.
Different woman every time.
It's not racism.
I don't know. I haven't watched that episode in a while, but I do not remember it like that.
It was just the rhythm of the scenes. You could have given me that John scene, then gone off and had a Toranaga, then had Ishido, and then come back.
I don't believe you.
There's 4 scenes in a row that had the same editing rhythm, and it just sort of like, once I spotted it, I was like, let's do this as one scene.
Interesting.
So there's tiny little things like that, but it's broadly a great show. The Earthquake,
episode 8 though.
The Earthquake is phenomenal. Every time I look at every time I see it in the previous league, where they're standing there and the earth underneath them starts to move and the mountain in the distance starts to landslide as well. I was like, that's phenomenal. That is I have not seen an earthquake rendered in wilderness. I guess I didn't watch San Andreas. I've not seen San Andreas. That's the Fault Line movie with The Rock, right?
I think so.
It's a simulation. I shouldn't be that blown away by computers, but like that looked phenomenal for TV. That to me, like that deserves a visual effects award. I keep thinking how stunning that is. Good show.
There was someone on Reddit that worked on the show, and this is weeks ago, saying that they can't wait for an episode to come up where there's some shot they did that they're really proud of. I don't think it was a special effects shot. I think it was just like a cinematography kind of thing. And he was talking about what cameras and stuff they were using. And I don't really use Reddit that much. If I was like had an account and stuff, I would have, made some sort of note so I can see who that guy or user is, so that when the shot they were talking about comes up, because people were saying, "Oh, you'll have to do a breakdown of it when it actually airs." But yeah, cinematography in the show was great as well.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
It's beautiful. I have out of curiosity, because I remember seeing the DVD cover or the VHS cover of Shogun in like laser and around the place. So it's funny to me, that's like a buried memory. It's like when I saw the trailer for this coming out, I was like, oh, cool. Why hasn't somebody done something like this before? That's kind of amazing. This is great. And it really did take a minute to remember the original. And to remember that it's Michael Chamberlain. Richard Chamberlain, apologies.
It looks so Star Trek-y. Like, somebody was comparing like two scenes from it, and I'm not even sure which scene it is, but they're all kind of sitting around. And in the modern show, they're on location, and the costumes are great, and they're in a real, very, very accurately. I don't know if it was an actual location or if they, built a set just to the kind of highest detail. And then in the
slight Takeshi's Castle vibe.
Yeah, in the NBC show, it just looks like a room on a 60s or 70s. Was it 80s or
1980?
70s? 1980. Okay. Yeah, it just looks like an episode of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like 60s Star Trek.
Yeah. They're doing their best.
It's just a room in a studio they have. Like, I think they had these like pink walls, and they're all wearing just these very costumey looking things, and it's just, the difference is insane.
I never saw the original, and I was talking to somebody about Hiroyuki Sanada and how he's kind of like this, I don't know, feel like this spiritual successor to Toshiro Mifune, even just in terms of his place in Japanese cinema. And then I looked up the original Shogun and was like, oh, Toshiro Mifune is the guy playing Toranaga. I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Coming back to your idea that like multiple seasons, like I found this, or I learned this in a TikTok, but apparently, is it James Clavell is the author? He did not write multiple books around this character, but he did write 6 books.
No, he wrote like 6 books
dealing with Japan and Asia,
whatever,
over the course of, I think they start in the 1500s.
One of them was
50s.
I think even later, possibly. I think the Noble House is one of them, and that was adapted for TV as well. Right. I think at one point.
Well, I mean,
that was set in Singapore or Hong Kong. I think,
and that's
was Pierce Brosnan in that?
I will look at Google. But
I remember RT showed that, like they made such a big deal out of it, out there be showing it, and then they were showing it on like a Friday or Saturday night.
Noble House, American drama miniseries, 1981 novel, released 1988 for the show. Pierce Brosnan, there he is. TV miniseries.
RT showed that. I don't know if you remember. Oh. Yeah. I remember watching it. I was already a weeb at that point. I saw something set in Asia, and I was like, yes. I would have been like, less than 12 years old.
Features a large cast of Pierce Brosnan as business tycoon. Well, that's my sort of, like, I don't think it's going to be a particularly original fucking take on it, but it's like, don't do 6 seasons of Shogun. Do 6 seasons of the Asian epic. He called it something. He called the Asian Anthology. Or there is a name for those 6 books combined. Do those 6 shows. You know, like, that's probably expensive because you, like, the reason to keep doing Shogun is you've already built the costumes, built the sets, learned a visual language, got an effects crew built up. The minute you have to take it to Singapore, it's a whole different cultural aesthetic. But yeah, it's fucking great. And I also love that the lead's real name is Cosmo. That appeals to me. Like, how many Cosmos do you know outside of Kramer?
A couple of cats, that's it.
And Cosmo Jarvis. The Japans.
The real
his hair plugs are coming
William
very
Adams.
soon, right?
I don't know, because Because I saw an interview with him that was obviously conducted after the filming, and his hairline is like all the way back. So it's like it's a wig for the show. Yeah.
When you say it's all the way back, like
his hairline is completely different, like exposed temples.
Oh, and his like it's just very, very thin on top as well. Like I think he might be in like just eat it like Sean Connery and shave the head, wear wigs.
I mean, that's what they do. Yeah. Why does this actor with, receding temples and thinning hair, they've shaved their head all of a sudden, have they? And then suddenly they come back with Downey's done it. Harry Styles has done it.
Yeah, it's correct.
Downey's was going like.
Do you mean plugs or wigs?
Recedy and thin. Hair transplant. Downey shaved his head recently.
Right.
Guarantee compare his hair in Civil War or whatever, and compare it to when his hair grows back. Sometime around now, I guess.
Yeah.
Noticeable difference. Look, they're all doing it. They're all on.
Oh, I want to do it.
Minoxidil or whatever it is.
I want all of the stuff. I want the TRT. I want the full optimized life. Like it's worked. All of the ads are working on me. Give me all of the things that'll keep me alive. What's that, Brian Johnson? I could look like a fucking ghoul, but be alive. Yeah,
like an absolute ghoul.
he's had a new PR guy or somebody step in, obviously, because they've changed his wardrobe, they've changed the way they're shooting his videos, they've changed his hair. He's got a much more relaxed way of talking about it. He doesn't talk about it as like, I'm trying to benchmark to my 18-year-old. And like I saw that story retold. It's just like, we just thought it was a fun little milestone. It's like I love my kids and we've got such a great it's just he's doing a lot to humanize himself all of a sudden because he.
Brian, this screams vampire.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got the money, so let us
tell your story.
Let us shape the narrative and tell the story now, because this picture of you here, you look like vampiric.
He's got like
Patrick
a wax
Bateman.
figure vibe. It's so alarming.
All that money to just look like that. It's crazy.
If you could do one performance optimizing life body fix, what are you doing?
I mean, is it going to work?
Yeah. I mean, let's assume that.
Well, the hair one, I guess, then.
Yeah. There's little wins. Like I'm conscious of the hair one. I think my hair is pretty good, but
hair's good.
I know the path of my father, and we're very genetically. We've exhibited a lot of similarities. I've got like a little gap in a tooth. That's the only gap. And I'm just like, how do I get this to meet without...
That's the thing then, like it's just when do you stop? When does it stop?
The only thing I would do...
It doesn't.
The only thing I would do is just gently close that fucker. At the moment. Stuff will go wrong, I'm sure, but if I could close that gap. And whiten, and change the colour of my eyes, and make myself taller, and lose all of the body fat. New skin. Personality transplant.
I assume you want to fix the ears.
Oh, the ears have got to go.
That wasn't number one. That was surprising.
Oh, sorry about that.
A
lot of time I can hide the ears with the hair, and I just wear a lot of headphones.
Can you though?
All right, no, that's it. I thought I was getting away with it, but I guess not.
You're only fooling yourself there, buddy. Sorry.
All right.
Of course, that left baby toe.
It's no good, is it?
That's an atrocity.
I was walking across the street yesterday on Capel Street, and I heard a guy go, "How's it going?" And I looked back because I thought he was talking to me, but he was talking to somebody next to me, and his hand went up and he waved, and that little finger, 90 degrees that way. And I was like, did he break his finger just now? No, he's waving. Did he break his finger and then never reset it? And it's just permanently at a 90-degree horizontal?
That's reminding me of someone. There's someone who has... I've seen that on someone like recently. They've just got mangled hands. Who is it?
Mangled hands.
I can't remember who it is. Yeah, their hands are just like, they don't even look like they'd function.
Gnarled. Bill Nye.
No, I don't know.
Bill Nye has it's kind of an arthritic or genetic condition. So the tendons in his fingers are tightening. So if you look at Bill Nye, they're stuck. So when you see him gesturing and stuff, his hands are like that. He can kind of point, but he's got limited mobility in those fingers. So watch him perform.
So he's a Muppet? Huh? That's what you're telling me. He's not a real person. He's a Muppet.
He's one of them.
He's just being thunderbirding all this time. Super Mario Nation.
Yeah. I was teaching my class yesterday and I was just in town all day. Been in town the last 2 days. Kind of like, and I'm going out again today at 1. I'm kind of tired from being out. I'm not even drinking much. I'm not drinking much. But it's just being out and about is tiring.
It's all that fresh air.
That's all that fresh air. I was teaching and I was trying to get fresh air. It got very busy because there was a bit of sun. I went to the Rag Trader, which is back in Dakota. Went in to order a drink, and the bartenders were kind of like, I was hearing them sort of just giving out amongst themselves because they kept getting orders for Aperol Spritz, and it was never like it was always like 4 to a half dozen at a time. And while I was there, two people, one after the other, went 6 Aperols, and I was like, I watched them just sort of go, fuck. I ordered a Guinness, and just the lightness in his step as he moved to the tap, he was very happy to have something straightforward.
I don't know. Once you've had an Aperol Spritz in Florence, it's very hard to pay €12 for one over here.
Yeah, that's it. The things we like and the fucking cost of them.
Yeah.
Here, it's absolutely
€4 in Florence, because it's just a little wee refreshing drink, and over here it's like, that's a full blown cocktail, €12. Just like, get out of here, get out.
I like cocktails feel more expensive recently.
Well, no, everything is. Pint is like 6 something now. That's insane. How much was your pint?
7.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, so it's not the cocktails. That's insane. That's a bummer.
I was in a bar last night and I ordered a couple of packets of bacon fries, and somebody went, 2 packets of bacon fries, and I went, yeah. And I was trying to think about why I did that. When I was a kid, you would get a packet of crisps for 15 to 50 pence, somewhere in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Does that seem about right? A packet of Tato?
Yeah.
They were pretty cheap.
I remember them being 10 at some point.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. I was saying that thinking, am I out of my mind here? But bacon fries were always like 80 to a pound. And because they were that smaller packet as well, it just felt like a colossal ripoff. And in my head, over the years, I went, I don't buy bacon fries. They're like a $5 a packet. I just made it huge in my head. And then one day recently, I ordered 2 packs of them because I was like, fuck it, I'm splurging. And they came back with $3.20 or £3, and it was just like, these are really affordable.
So I could be eating all of the bacon fries.
Suddenly what I thought was a luxury item, which is a luxury item.
Still expensive, but...
Yeah.
It's just a more reasonable splurge.
Yeah, it's not so bad. I'm trying to think of all the things that have happened. I went to 2 improv shows over the last 2 nights. There's a group rented Smock Alley and put 4 acts on a night. The idea being, I believe the idea to be trying to bring improv comedy to a larger audience and trying to sort of break through the little like community barrier that we've got going on. Last night was good. The night before was phenomenal. Every act was amazing. I've watched a lot of improv at this point, and a lot of comedy at this point, and to be sat in the front row, just laughing my hole off, it was great. It was really, really good. I got a lift home both nights from somebody who lives near me, and last night the car was full of improvisers.
That must have been hell.
Lovely people. But they had been talking about the video where the chimp uses a frog as a masturbatory device. Have you seen that one?
I have.
The chimp picks up a frog and just kind of gives it a few pumps and fucks it away. And so they were improvising songs about chimp raping a frog for the hour back. And I was...
So that was hell, as I expected.
Yeah. It was a lot. It was fun. I was matching energy and contributing where I could.
I just have to say you're all the worst people. You just... Yeah. Why would you want to spread that to more people? Just keep it in your weird little community, okay? Mm-hmm. None of us want it.
It's fair.
Keep it over there.
Fair. It's very fair. That last group on the first night, though, was a group called Tiny. And...
You're good.
They're so good. I mean, I put a few clips on my...
Had you seen them before, or...?
I've seen them once or twice before, but... in that space, that big theater space, with like a full 45 minutes to just go, you've got 5 people on stage at the same time. Like, say the setting was like on an airplane, and they've got, 6 seats set up, and, they're all different characters on the airplane. One of them's yelling to the opposite side window. One of them gets up and suddenly they're putting the fuel in the back of the plane. Chaos is breaking out. One gets up and starts doing the... like... They're all doing something, and the balancing act of being a present, physically actualized character without talking over somebody else. Mm-hmm. So you're just adding to the moment. And how does one thing affect the other? Like, they came back to that scene at a later point, and we had somebody outside the plane doing maintenance. Like, he put a fuel into the wing, and he was there, and he was just adjusting stuff, and somebody in the plane went, "I need to hold your hand during this turbulence," and the whole room had the same thought as the guy outside the plane at that same moment, was going, "Wait," and everybody looked over at him, and he went, "Turbulence," and then he just looked around, and suddenly he was clinging to the edge of the plane, and he was having a whole other story happening as he just sort of slid back the wing. And then just sort of was like, he did like fingernails peeling off and flying back to the back of the room and just going down, collapsing and dying. And it was so fun. It was so fun. Yeah, I cannot say it enough times. It was a great night of comedy. And I was looking at it going, this should be Vicar Street. I've seen other comedians. I've seen comedians from this community scale up to that level. I mean, Tony Cantwell is a great example. Grace Mulvey is doing that as well. Like, Dream Gun do script reads, and they've done Vicar Street a few times. There's a very simple hack there, because it's like, we're reading Jurassic Park, and it's a comedic take on reading that script, and they plus it here and there and change performance and stuff. It's very accessible once it's a recognizable thing. But like, these 5 performers within this community are so top notch. I just want to see them. I want to see them have that success, that step over the line to the point where they're like, oh, they're in the Olympia this week. I mean, the fact that that podcast talking bollocks.
Foil Arms and Hog have done it to a point.
Yeah.
Smaller group, but I mean, they were essentially similar thing. So there is a route for improv to cross over to a bigger audience, bigger scene. Yeah, I think sketches is the way to go to broaden your thing. Yeah, make people make it more palatable then, because we're going to go see a sketch show as opposed to it being just improv. If they've seen a bunch of your sketches,
yeah, and
because at the end of the day, it's
shareable.
Yeah, exactly, and it's the same rhythm. People have the same roles in the kind of troupe. So they're bringing whatever they bring to it, and once you've established what that is in a handful of sketches, then it makes more sense for people to go see it. But if it's just improv, it is harder to break out of the community audience.
Yeah. There's a guy this guy called Dan McCormick. I like him very much. I've only got really talking to him now in the last few months. We chat occasionally. He's done shows with us. Liam Quinton and Dan do a show called Ghost Stories. And they do that show every couple of months, maybe. And they always sell it out. They pick their theaters right, they market it right, and they always sell it out well. He's good at marketing it. But he was telling me about how he promoted it the first time, going on radio. Like, he went on radio with it because he knew somebody, whatever. But in trying to promote it, he's done so much improv. He got it down to ghost stories. It's an improvised ghost story. It's exactly what you think it is. And that sentence over a radio or over an ad or whatever, it's exactly what you think it is such a beautiful, like, there's not huge amount of room for interpretation from like improvised ghost story. You can pretty logically get there. But just telling the listener or telling the person watching it, you're right. What a reassuring idea. It's exactly what I think it is. And then you could think about whatever you're going to enjoy and you want to go and see it. But they do a great show. Like, they do their opening piece. I think we talked about it maybe a year and a half ago at this point. But the way their show opens, it's, the lights are down and there's one of the characters is got he's a sheet ghost. It's a light muslin cloth draped over him, and he's holding a candle, like a battery candle, but it just looks like a candle. And he's under this in the dark, and he's kind of an eerie figure. And he usually picks somewhere to walk in from that's not necessarily backstage, so there's just quiet in the room. And he marches, just gently walks his way in, and he hands the candle to an audience member, somebody in the front row, and then takes the muslin and drapes it over the person holding the candle. Now, this is such a weird experience that already what started off as eerie is getting a laugh, right? We're getting something funny happening. And then the second person comes in, wearing a pea coat, little flat cap. He's on a boat, or he's got this sort of nautical vibe, and he sees the person in the front row. And he's like, God! And calls for the captain, and the captain comes out, and then the two of them go, staring at this person in the front row. What do you want, spirit? So suddenly, the improv, asking the audience for a suggestion is they've identified there's a ghost in the audience. They've seen a spirit, and they just start, what is it you want? What's your story? Have you unfinished business? And they get a little bit of treating it as honestly as they possibly can, or authentically. They're not playing it for laughs and chuckling at the idea. They're like, there's a ghost. And the audience is like breaking, and the person talking as the ghost is kind of breaking, but they get enough information about the person or a story in their life to so tell your story and release the spirit. It's the unfinished business. And they then improvise the story, and it ends with sort of like exercising that spirit into the afterlife. And the first time I saw that, I was like, this is fucking amazing. And they're great improvisers, and it's just a great show. But it's such a beautifully conceived, like, it's not a night of improvised comedy with a whole bunch of acts and you don't know what anything's necessarily going to be. It's just ghost stories. It's exactly what you think it is. And it's 45 minutes to an hour, and it's done, and it's clean and crisp. And so yeah, it's hard to sell an improv group without, like, here's a concept that's going to cross over that the audience will go, oh yeah, sure, I know what I'm going to get. Like saying improvised Harry Potter. It's like, oh, I'm going to go see a Harry Potter show. Everybody has enough shared vocabulary to know what that's going to be and enjoy their night. So I guess they need a hook. Kevin and I were talking Steve Martin movies last week. I don't know if you listened.
No.
We were talking LA Story. Have you seen LA Story?
Long time ago, yeah.
Do you have any affection for it? Do you like it? Did you dislike it? Do you even remember it?
I didn't like it at the time. I saw a lot of Steve Martin when I was too young. As in, too young to appreciate it, really. Yeah. Yeah. I would have seen this kind of stuff, and most of it would have went over my head at the time.
Right. So, I mean, maybe it's worth a revisit. It's a sweet movie. It's a bit heavy-handed in some of its slapstick, but there's sweetness in it. I talked very much. Well, we talked last week about the idea that there's the love interest plays the tuba, and doesn't really tell people about it. And Steve Martin shows up and knocks at the door, and you're just hearing the wop 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 wop, and then you hear wop 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 wop, and he knocks on the door, and she gets up and comes to the door and goes, "Oh, do you play the tuba?" And she's like, "No." "What?" "No." "What did I hear?" And she's like, "Oh, well, I was just, excuse me, I got to do something." And she goes back in and goes, "Wah, wah," and just finishes the shave and a haircut. It works perfectly, I guess, for a generation that has that rhythm in their head and needs it to be finished. Because when she didn't finish it, it was haunting me for the entire scene that, like, it didn't come. We rolled off of that, though, and said that we might watch the Sergeant Bilko movie that he made in the mid-90s. I don't know how we landed on that of all of Steve Martin's films.
Yeah.
I think we...
Why?
I think we were just talking about the idea that he entered this phase of just, like, remaking or revisiting older comedians' content, you know? Like, he did the Pink Panther thing as well, you know? Like,
that was much later,
was
though.
This? Yeah. And Dragnet was happening at that era. There was a lot of, like, trying to repurpose old properties. And Bilko's such an odd choice in many ways. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts on that?
No.
Can you talk about how you feel about Bilko?
No. It's coming from an age when it was like a VHS rental, and sometimes they were good, sometimes they weren't, and whether it was good or bad, you watched it 4 or 5 times because you had it for a night or two. So I watched it 4 or 5 times because we had it.
Yeah.
You know, it might be a Saturday. We'd all go to the store together. What are we getting? There's nothing there. There was a trailer for this one on the last thing we rented. So we're all a bit familiar with it. So we pick it up. There's 4 of us there. We pick it up, not knowing what we're getting. Sometimes we'd get 2 if we're lucky. Yeah. We get our snacks. We go home and watch it. And sometimes it was just fun to be watching a film on a Saturday night when your parents go out and you have snacks. You know? I didn't have any strong feelings on it one way or another, which is to say it's probably not great because there's other stuff you'd watch and you're like, oh my God, and it's burned into your memory. But Bilko was just one of those ones where you're just like, well, it was a movie, I guess. You know? Is it bedtime or did we get another one? Do we have time to watch the second one?
Yeah.
That's my...
And that's your view on it.
That's my view
That's not a wrong... That's not a wrong take on it. For me, like, I had been watching the Phil Silvers show on BBC Two for fucking ages. I had watched Bilko in black and white on BBC Two at lunchtime during the summer for fucking ever. Like, I loved Sergeant Bilko. And when they were making a Bilko movie, I was like, Steve Martin's doing Bilko? This is going to be great. This is going to be amazing. So, like, I went into it predisposed to love it, and I just liked it. I did. I loved that movie, and I watched it a lot. And, like, my dad was like, my dad being an objective, older human being was like, well, I don't know why they redid this thing, and, like, it's weird, it doesn't work, and he doesn't care for Steve Martin anyway. And I couldn't understand. I was like, why don't you like this thing? It's more of the thing we like. But I liked it. And they had a tank that hovered. And they had Phil Hartman. And they had Glenn Headley. And Glenn Headley? And Dan Aykroyd. There's a Ghostbuster in this, you know? Like, this is great. I rewatched it during the week. I still have a lot of affection for it. I love Steve Martin. It's happy. It's chipper. I recognize some of the people in it that I didn't recognize before. Just as, like, character actors that have been around forever. I did get frustrated watching it because I was like, this doesn't need to go on this long. And having Adobe Premiere present, I stopped watching it on my media player and I threw it into Premiere. And every time I got bored, I cut that 30 seconds out of the movie. It's like, we don't need to hold on this shot for as long as we're holding on it. We don't need to see him drive up to the helicopter, get out of the helicopter, walk over to the helicopter. We can just start with him walking over to... So Sergeant Bilko has entered the collection of like Aiden cuts that exist on my hard drive now. I still had fun with it in a lot of places. It's too silly, and I do feel that too silly is a word, but like I feel like what works for Martin in himself as a performer, as a stand-up, as a guy, like doing the zany, arms flailing, just talking gibberish to make it sound like he's doing army speak. Like, this sort of stuff works with him, but when he's trying to use it to carry a half dozen sidekicks in Bilko's troop, and it's not carrying the weight he needs it to. Phil Hartman is doing his best evil version of himself. I always have a soft spot for anything with Phil Hartman in it at this point. I had forgotten till he popped up. Chris Rock is in this movie, like a very early role for him, and he's playing a very nerdy computer character. There's two like army accountants that show up and have to like check the books to try and catch Bilko out. And there, I you know when you remember something that you had known, like I had forgotten the moment Chris Rock walks on screen, his like they get an entrance, the accountants get an entrance, a helicopter lands, and they get out and come up and like, we're reporting for whatever, we're going to find this guy. And they have almost a like Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive kind of like, this guy's going to be caught to no good. He's got this, he's got rackets, he's got gambling, he's got that. We're going to find it. Like, we got to close off all his avenues. Like, they've got a little like moment, but just as he's walking up, there's just way too long where Chris Rock just goes, there's the camera, just stares at it, and then goes back to acting. And it's just like, oh, that's a strong
rookie.
Spiking of the lens right there. Huh?
Rookie stuff.
But like you say rookie, but it's just like, I understand. It's like a first time thing. But I also go like, how many times did they do that shot? And that's the best one?
Well, see, they had the helicopter and they could only afford it for so long. And
yeah. I mean, there's a moment in that movie where they like go back to the helicopter taking off, and it's like, we don't need to see the helicopter taking off. Why are you making us give a shit about the empty helicopter leaving? Because you rented the helicopter?
We rented
wanted to get a cool shot of a helicopter?
We rented it, and it looks cool, so it stays in the picture.
I think that Bilko has an interesting history in that Phil Silvers was this character that had this show built around him. Like, the show's not called the Sergeant Bilko Show. The show is called the Phil Silvers Show. But he's just playing this character the whole time. It's an odd thing. And I think it's funny that in the way that the Honeymooners became the Flintstones, Bilko became Top Cat. Like, Top Cat is just a shameless Sergeant Bilko clone. Dupe, if you will, to use the parlance of our times. Did you like Top Cat at all?
I did.
Yeah?
Because I liked cartoons. How long now until they do, DreamWorks 3D Top Cat with Steve Martin?
I don't know that they'll do it with Steve Martin, but they definitely did it.
I mean, after Only Murders in the Building, he's back, baby.
I'm trying to find this out. I mean, I did an animation test for a Top Cat feature film that was being made in Kilkenny.
Well, that's
back in 2010, 11, Top Cat. Hold on, I can find this. Top Cat the movie, 2011. See, the thing about Top Cat, he's one of these anomaly characters as well, where it's like, as much as Top Cat CG film, Top Cat Begins, 2015. I'm going to sneeze. I mean, if we've never heard of him, that's not great.
Not great.
So the thing about the interesting thing, I say this is it's a Warner Brothers. Okay, I suppose it would have to be huge in the South American world or in the Latin American world. Huge in the Latin American world. As much as the world knows him as Top Cat, he is much more successful as Don Gato. So he kind of gets a lot of content for that character gets made and sent to Latin-speaking countries.
Interesting.
Which is kind of interesting. Yeah. I mean, these sort of like revisit properties. I guess it's interesting which ones get the like big push and the ones that don't, because like Netflix just put up a Woody Woodpecker animated feature in CG. Do you know that character at all?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just got, it's just got up there and buried, but I don't know if there's a kids audience that's going to watch the hell out of that. Yeah, this movie's called Top Cat Begins. The first comment under the trailer is Top Cat Begins, the top night rises. What a weird world, huh?
That's a really bad joke.
The Top Cat Begins.
Yeah,
Top Cat
he's
Begins.
a cat. Top is just a preposition. In this case, an adjective, but yeah. His name. You should leave a comment under their comment telling them to be better.
The 4 comments under it are: it's simple. We kill the Top Cat. Top Cat returns. Top Cat forever. Top Cat and Benny. The Top Knight returns. Top Cat vengeance. Top Cat dark tomorrow. And then the last comment is just baffling.
And this is why we don't read the comments.
I saw an ad for Roomba, and I don't know that I sent it to you, but I screen grabbed it, and it says it's an ad for Roomba, and the slogan is all vacuum, all mop, no problem. And I think they're trying to do the RoboCop thing. I think they're trying to do half man, half machine, all cop. It's laborious to get through. I don't know why the world.
You should work in marketing and write copy for ads.
I should at the very least be asked to comment on them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's my news. Did you watch the Fallout show at all?
No, I've cancelled all my subscriptions.
Ah, okay.
I also don't like Fallout, so.
Okay. I haven't.
I've heard good things though.
Yeah, I got about halfway through the first episode.
Apparently, women have the hots for Goulton Goggins.
Of course they do.
Women are funny creatures.
They're so funny.
Has Walton Goggins ever been like gotten that much female attention before? Because I, as Walton Goggins, would be kind of upset if I'd appeared in a bunch of stuff and had no one talking about me, and then I appear as a radiation zombie with no nose, and people are like, "Yes, please." I would take that personally.
Yeah, I've yet to see what he has been given to do that would garner this much attention. I think it's.
I mean, Boyd Crowder was a bad boy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be kind of insulting.
His character as a parent at the start was very endearing. Like when you first meet him, the world is yet to be blown up. And he's kind of like a 50s TV cowboy playing a kid's birthday party. And he's just very sweet to his daughter. And when the bombs start dropping, he pulls her up on a horse and they head for the head for the hills as these bombs hit the horizon. So it's a very...
That's not going to save you.
No. And I'm saying that as if, like, there's no way that man wasn't turned to dust. So I don't know what Fallout science fiction magic happens. I haven't got to the point where...
I don't think there is any really. There's just...
Like, it's 200 years later. So I don't know what they did, or if he's frozen, or if he's a clone.
Radiation.
Yeah. I don't know what the concept is there yet. But, like, when you're saying he's getting this reaction from women, it's like, well, whatever the character's doing is what's getting the reaction. Yeah. And I haven't seen what that is yet.
I'm reading a book on Greek mythology. It's very dense. It's so dense. I'm still at the introduction.
What's the book?
It's literally like just the Penguin book of Greek mythology or something like that. I'm not sure.
Because I know, did Neil Gaiman do the Norse mythologies?
Fuck Neil
and
Gaiman.
Stephen Fry did the...
Fuck Stephen Fry and fuck Neil Gaiman.
So who's the author of this one?
I'll get the book. I'm not reading some pop culture book I want it written by an academic. I'm not reading Neil Gaiman's book of mythology. Stephen Fry. Get out of here. This is the Penguin Book of Classical Myths by Jenny March. Okay?
All right.
Who is Jenny March, you say? Dr. Jenny March has taught at London, Reading, and Southampton universities, was a British Academy postdoctoral research fellow at University College London, and is attached to Corpus Christi College, Oxford. A real book, not written by some TV presenter, comic book writer. Get out of here.
Buy it because it has a beautiful cover?
No, I bought it because I wanted to read a book about myths.
Okay. I just saw the cover on the internet here. It is a very nice cover.
Yeah, the intro is dense. I thought it was... Because, like, what is it? The first proper section is... Creation.
Ooh.
And somewhere before that, I was like, it seems like they were skipping straight to the, like, Olympian gods. I was like, no, I want to know about the Titans, because people think Titans are these giant things, and they're not. They're just what were before the Olympians. It's like, I want to know about that stuff, because I've tried reading about that stuff. It's all over the place. There's so many different versions and interpretations. It's like, I want to know. There's as much story there in that part as there is in the rest. And I've never read a kind of a clear interpretation or order of that stuff. Every time we read about Gaia, it's some
Captain Planet, Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, or it's someone's interpretation then, of that kind of thing. Anyway, the intro, I am still on the intro because I was like, oh, introduction, that'll be brief, surely. No, it's not. It's a lot. It gets very... Yeah, it's 20 pages, the intro.
Do you know, I know this just speaks to how dumb I am as a human being, but there have been a few times where I have bought academic retellings of, I don't know, fantasy or history or classics that I'm like, I want to know what this is. So I start reading it and I start going, be a completist, introduction, here we go. And I don't get through the introduction and I put the book down and I never go back. I think I've got Beowulf, I've got a bunch of Oscar Wilde. I've a few books on the shelf here that I'm just like, one of these days I'm going to get past that introduction and actually get to the content.
Pesky intro.
Yeah. I got a book on the Celts. I was just like, oh, so heavy. I picked up the Malbiognon, the Welsh cycles, like that has the whole Green Knight and Arthurian things, because I was just like, I don't think about the what would you call it, Cymric texts about what was going on in the British Isles at that point. But didn't get much past the introduction. I think a shiny thing walked past me. So, have you a favorite? Like, this is Greek myths?
Mostly, yeah. It's there's the introduction is explaining like the kind of close ties between Roman and Greek mythology. So sometimes some Roman stuff will come up if there's a version maybe that is kind of better known, but for the most part, it's Greek.
Have you a character or a story within that world or within that catalog that you like? Like,
I've loved this stuff forever. I've like kids' books on mythology and stuff. I didn't know it was a subject in school because I went to
classical
a shitty
studies?
school. Yeah, somebody was telling me about they were doing mythology.
I did classical studies
for leaving certain. They were like talking about a story that I knew backwards. And like, hold on, what? It's like, yeah, classical studies for leaving. It was like you're doing mythology for get out of here. Why am I doing these subjects that I have no interest in? That's because my school sucks.
I mean, the classic concept of classical education, has kind of gone by the wayside as well. But
except in the top schools,
except in the top schools where
because it's important.
Latin is part of it, and it grounds you for learning languages as well. I did classical studies. The myth stuff was kind of all on the junior cert cycle. And then for the leaving cert, it was like the Odyssey and the Iliad and the Aeneid and studies of architecture, like the classical architecture. I remember going to the library in Dunleary. I remember going to the library in Dunleary and like picking up a book on like Norse mythology, and I read that inside out. I loved that sort of whole cycle to Ragnarok thing. Can I remember any of it in a way to be useful? No, I just have a sort of I can go, I did do that, I don't remember it. But I don't know, I love having that like broad grounding in things that you can pull a little bit of something from something. It's
there's a reason that stuff has preserved for so long, and that there were so many why do so many kind of seemingly separate civilizations and cultures have stories about bulls stealing, cattle raids, and we've got a cattle raid story.
Yeah,
there's stories of bulls and things in Greek mythology, like
shared, like even just like we see it in fucking film these days. I mean, like I can bring it right back to like how quickly stories get grabbed, reinterpreted, and their origins get lost. There's a lot of Top Cat movies. How many people watching Top Cat know that it was Sergeant Bilko originally? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like I saw somebody talking about how the story of Noah is more or less a direct translation of a flood myth from somewhere else. Like it's just grabbing,
they all
and
have
assembling.
They all have flood stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying is like learning those stories and then learning how to interpret them and what they mean is such a solid grounding for understanding the world. Because I mean the point of those stories isn't it's the message, first of all, and that I mean religion is essentially people missing the message and focusing on the metaphor. Right? So they're more interested in the fact that there's an afterlife and that there's a guy who has superpowers and can make infinite food, rather than kind of going, oh no, the point there is that it's important to share this stuff because when you share this stuff, there's enough for everybody, and that's the message. And if we all had a bit maybe stronger classical education, we'd be less easily duped by things. We'd have more critical thinking skills. We'd be better off having that basis, kind of understanding how do we interpret stories, What's the point of the story as opposed to just getting lost in the metaphor? Going, wouldn't it be cool if you could shoot little fucking thunderbolts? That'd be so fucking cool.
Mm.
That'd be great.
While we're talking about Zack Snyder, Rebel Moon Part 2 came out. Speaking as somebody that misses the point of characters entirely and focuses on the superficial bullshit. I have no intention of talking about Rebel Moon now. I still haven't seen it.
I watched the first one and it's fucking awful. Like it's maybe his worst thing ever.
He says that the fucking R-rated version is the film we want to make.
But he made it. He made it. Like what? It's like
he does talk about this is a very much a release plan. He talked about the whole fucking thing.
That's what I'm saying. Is like they're drip feeding content. You know.
Yes.
Like he's made.
This is not a director's
squeezing
cut.
Stuff. Yeah.
He just made 2 versions of the same movie. Yeah. And he said, "This is the version I want to make."
And it's ready to go. Like there's no reason to hold it back. Go. This isn't a case where people need to get on Twitter and demand this cut be, allow him to finish and give it. It's like he made it already. You're just fucking squeezing content out of content. It's just
he wrote this thing in such a way that like this is the thing I want to make, and then he created an alt version that he could do at the same time. That is the PG-13 version, I guess. And he's just taken 2 bites at the same apple. Rather than, it's not a director's cut. I understand this, and it's like to a degree, it's like fair enough, kind of admirable. But I don't want to waste my time watching the version that you did to just like, put on airplanes. I'm going to wait until both of the R-rated versions are out, I guess, and watch the purest form.
This isn't even the final part of this. Like, how many?
These 2 are a story.
Like the first one came out 2 months ago, Christmas.
Yeah, around January, I think.
Yeah, so like this isn't a case of he made one and went away and made another.
No,
this like they could have just released this together.
Yeah,
but
he has a deal that apparently allows him
films.
for more.
Yeah,
but he had the same fucking plan with the Army of the Dead or the Land of the Dead. What was the fucking zombie movie he made? Las Vegas heist movie. Like there's a whole fucking extended zombie universe there that hasn't gone ahead as far as we know. Do you remember we talked about that fucking film?
Yeah.
And do you remember that at one... You don't?
No, I do.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. Do you remember at one point towards the end, one of them shoots a zombie in the head and you find out it's a robot?
Or something. Yeah.
And he looks at it funny and we get a moment where we're like, oh, what's that about?
What was that about?
He has some fucking...
Yeah.
Lore that he's aiming at is to explain why there's robot zombies in the mix. Oh my god, I just remember that movie. There's like one king zombie and he's an alien or something.
It's bad. It's bad.
And he's making a zombie love.
And Zack seems like a nice person, but I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff in there too. That I maybe
Zack seems like a nice person? Like Zack Snyder?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think I've mentioned before that there's weird stuff in there. When you look at Sucker Punch and how Army of the Dead ended, and then his own personal life,
how did Army of the Dead end? I didn't see Army of the Dead.
That's the one we were just talking about.
Is that called Army of the Dead? Sorry, I was thinking of Land of the Dead. Then he wasn't involved with that, was he?
I don't know what that is.
He did. I can get all these dead things fucking mixed up. I think that's the one where George Romero came back. Land of the Dead? 2005 film. Yeah, it is Land of the Dead. It is directed by George Romero with Dennis Hopper and John Leguizamo, Asian Argento. Sorry, I'm mixing them up. And it's Army of the Dead, is it?
I think so, yeah.
How did Army of the Dead end? Everyone was on a fucking helicopter and was still infected or something.
Batista kills himself to save his daughter, I think.
Some filmmakers shouldn't be writers, I guess. Is that what we're getting at?
It's definitely part of it.
If you were to watch a Steve Martin film for next week, what would you watch?
No.
No?
I'm not doing a Steve Martin series.
You don't have to do a Steve Martin series.
It's a Steve Martin series. It's the start of a Steve Martin series. What's the
point? Enjoying films we like. Talking about them.
Enjoy films we like.
Yeah. Do you not like any Steve Martin films?
I've never gone back to purposely watch a Steve Martin film.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put it that way.
Well, that.
I remember liking Parenthood. I'll go back and watch that and see if it holds up. I believe it holds up. And there's also... Am I thinking of the right film? Is it a meme now? There's a picture of Diane Keaton and Steve Martin. And apparently they're supposed to be in their 30s in Parenthood. And they do not look like they're in their 30s. Have you seen that meme? I'll send it to you. They're supposed to be 35, apparently. I think it's Parenthood. Who's the father of the bride? Who's his wife in that?
I don't think it might be her again. Yeah.
All right.
I have never seen Parenthood.
I don't know if it's a Father of the Bride or Parenthood. I'll send you the meme. You haven't seen Parenthood? Okay.
Are you thinking of Father of the Bride?
No, Parenthood. I'm pretty sure it's Parenthood I'm thinking of.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen Parenthood.
I remember liking that, I think. I guess the point would be to watch it and see, did I ever like it?
Right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give it a look. I've never seen it.
All right.
Bye.